Chapter 4. Not how I expected we'd start this chapter. Someone is calling out my name. Surrounding me in a vibrant meadow covered in a gorgeous blanket of wildflowers. In the distance, I recognize our small home situated in a village, hidden deep in the mountains. This is where we lived. Our modest but idle life. And then one day, our village was set ablaze. A flame split into the sky, filling it with an ominous crimson haze. Someone precious had been calling out to me. Suddenly, the ground around my feet was littered with an array of atrophied atrophied corpses. Each body marked with a mortifying expression. My lungs were filled with the char of smoke, making it difficult to catch my breath. Then, I blacked out. As I regained consciousness, someone was carrying me.
あと少しで山を越えられる。もう少しだけこらえてくれ。
The man panted heavily as he carried me through our swift escape down a forested trail.
それにしても、むごいことをするものだ。倒幕への協力を断られたからといって、村に火をつけるなど。
Even though I was but a child, I realized that my innocence, my home, all of those things would never return to me. The further we fled from the village that we called home, the more my heart filled with terror, and my eyes filled uncontrollably with tears. A voice echoed from out of nowhere, as if it had entered my brain like a curse. The sound of the mysterious voice spewing its indignant cries came into a cacophonous harmony with my desperate sobbing. All of my dying clan's resentments and sorrow manifested into a haunting condemnation. I hate them. Their words became my words, and the same bitter sentiment left my mouth.
ちゃん、千鶴ちゃん。
This voice. My eyes widened, and it was Okita staring back at me with a concerned expression. Was I just dreaming all of that?
大丈夫？ずいぶんうなされてたみたいだけど。もしかして怖い夢でも見た？
Yeah, it wasn't that. I'm just still adjusting to sleeping at this hour. Don't worry about me. For some reason, I felt too embarrassed to look Okita in the eye, so I fidgeted and stared at the ground.
下手な嘘はやめたら。人間って得手不得手があるんだから。
What? I'm not lying! I shouted impulsively at him, rushing to clap my hands over my mouth as soon as the words came out. Okita was taken aback by my surprising outburst, And for a while he seemed offended, but he shifted into a more sympathetic approach.
ごめん。君のことが心配だったから。
No, I should be the one apologizing. He was only showing me concern, so it was unfair of me to yell at him. I wondered what compelled me to do so. It was difficult to discern or trust my own feelings. Something nasty began to fester in the pit of my stomach. I needed to take better care of myself. I began to wonder if becoming a fury would not only deteriorate my body, but my mind as well.
君の話、聞かせてくれる？
His urge was curt but gentle, and I thought it was a good opportunity to open up about how I felt. I took deep breaths, making it easier for me to gather my thoughts coherently before I spoke. I had a flashback, just a little one, about my childhood. Back then, we lived in a remote, peaceful village. But one day, for whatever reason, an army of humans marched into our village armed with weapons. As I searched for details of the memory, I bit my lip. I realized that I was uncovering a deeply buried trauma that had been waiting for me all my life. They lit the village on fire, and my parents, as well as other demons we knew, were all murdered. All we wanted was a life of peace and solitude. Recounting the story triggered all of my hateful feelings once more, brewing like a storm in my heart. Whatever selfish reasons they had, they killed men, women, children, everyone! Everyone! An entire village who only wanted peace! I was aware that most people aspired to obey their inherent goodness, hoping to triumph over evil. I knew this was not the truth for all men. There were men who took pleasure from their evil deeds.
千鶴ちゃん。
Okita gazed at me longingly, reaching his hand out to mine as a gesture of comfort. However, I couldn't reciprocate it. I don't know what to think anymore! I never ever imagined myself as someone who would let their resentment consume herself. I suppose that my bitterness had nowhere to go, and the tiny flame within me grew and grew until it had become a wildfire intent on getting vengeance. Now, I wanted nothing more than the families of those who destroyed my village to suffer in agony for generations, until they could no longer even conceive of hope. As such thoughts simmered fiercely in my mind, I suddenly gasped in shock.
今はあんまり思い詰めない方がいいよ。喉乾いたでしょ。水筒も空になっちゃったから、僕近くの川で水を汲んでくる。君はここで待ってて。何かあったらすぐに僕を呼ぶんだよ。
Okay. Be careful. Okita jumped through the bushes to look for the river. Sweat dripped down my forehead, and I wiped off a thick layer with the back of my hand as I sighed. Just then, I heard grass rustling underneath heavy footsteps, only a little distance from where I was sitting. Okita, did you forget something? When the voice didn't respond, a wet chill crept down the length of my spine. It wasn't Okita. I held my breath anxiously, waiting for an answer.
ひどいな、お前って。血を分けた兄をよりによって起きたと間違えるなんてさ。
Kaoru, What are you doing here?
俺も一応新政府軍に協力してる立場ではあるからさ。お前らの動きぐらい簡単につかめるよ。宇都宮城で新政府軍と戦ったことも、その後北を目指してたこともね。お前たちが新選組のやつらと別行動をとって北に向かう理由なんて一つしかないじゃないか。
Kaoru smirked with his suggestive tone, and he started approaching me slowly. With each step he took, I nervously took a step back.
少しは思い出したか、俺たちが子供の頃のこと。人間どもみたいに互いに争ったりせず、つつましく生きてた俺たちがなぜか何もかも失わなきゃならなかった。人間どもよりずっと強い体を持ってる俺たちがだよ。理不尽だと思わないか。強いやつが報われるんじゃない。正しいやつが成功するんじゃない。最後に笑うのはどんな時でも手段を選ばずに小ずるく立ち回ったやつだけだ。
I think if Kaoru had confronted me with this monologue just days ago, I would have dismissed it outright. But now, our village was destroyed by humans, wasn't it? I was reminded of the nightmare I had just had. Though going back further, I recalled what Sen had told me before as well.
幕府を倒すため患者役をしろって西国の藩のやつらに脅されたんだ。俺たちの父様は静かに暮らしたいから協力できないとその脅しを突っぱねた。そうしたらああやって里に火をかけられたのさ。
What Kaoru spoke of was a memory I had sealed away to live my life. Oh, I had sealed away to live my life, up until recently, as a human. But all of it was coming back to me. All of his anger and acrimony? Word that I don't know. It's too big. It was justified.
ぬるま湯に浸って生きてきたお前もようやく分かってくれたか。
Kaoru's eyes shifted to look far into the distance.
これでやっと俺たちは同じになれる。本当の兄弟に戻れるんだ。俺が長い時間をかけて味わってきた苦しみをお前はこの短い間に経験した。俺たちは誰よりも互いの気持ちを分かり合えるはずだよ。そうだろう。
Kaoru turned to face me again, and his eyes had a melancholic sincerity behind them. What do you hope to do?
決まってるじゃないか。俺は故郷で雪村一族を再興する。人間たちに奪われた暮らしを取り戻すんだ。俺の家族や里のみんなを虐げた奴らを許さない。俺たちの苦境を知っても手を差し伸べようとすらしなかった西国の鬼たちも。そしてこの国にはびこる薄汚い人間どもも。
Kaoru began to burn with a potent rage. However, becoming privy to the reasoning behind all of this inner turmoil made me realize I was no longer afraid of him. If anything, I could only feel for him.
行動のおじさんが改良してくれた落ち水を使えば日の元で動ける羅刹の軍を作れる。
I froze. Kaoru, is father with you?
ああ、彼は俺たちの遠縁の親戚だからね。雪村一族再興のため協力は惜しまないって言ってくれてるよ。新しい落ち水を飲むとさ、人と交わって血が薄まった鬼でも鬼本来の力を取り戻すことができるんだ。その落ち水で俺たちの仲間をどんどん増やしていけば人間どもどころか西国の鬼たちだって敵じゃない。俺たちはこの日の元の新たな名士になることができるんだよ。
Kaoru reached his hand out to mine.
千鶴、俺と一緒に行こう。
What? Kaoru sprung his proposition on me. This was no joke from Kaoru. He was dead serious.
もう分かったんだろう。お前が望むなら沖田も一緒でいい。邪魔な奴らを全て根絶やしにしてこの国に俺たちの本当の居場所を作ろう。
Just as Sen had predicted, Father was continuing his research on the water of life, even after leaving the Shinsengumi. Perhaps Father had the key to curing the affliction inside Okita and restoring his humanity. And together, perhaps we could create a new home for ourselves, one where we could live in peace. If this was one chance to give myself the promise of a better future, was it worth it to accept? Before I could answer Kaoru,
僕は行かないよ。絶対に行かない。
a familiar voice responded in the distance, and at once I was snapped back to reality.
千鶴ちゃん、君って本当にお人よしなんだね。うまい話には裏があるって言うでしょ。こんな奴の言うこと信じちゃダメだよ。
Okita emerged from the trees, standing in front of me to confront Kaoru directly. Kaoru, however, seemed to have anticipated Okita's arrival, and he grinned suggestively.
今すぐ答えが欲しいわけじゃない。可愛い妹が悩む時間くらいはあげるよ。俺たちは故郷で待ってる。たどり着くまでに答えを決めておくんだね。
待て！
Okita immediately unsheathed his sword and attempted to swipe quickly at Kaoru. Kaoru read Okita's movements easily, narrowly avoiding the attack as it grazed the fabric of his sleeve.
それじゃあな、千鶴。いい返事を期待してるよ。
Then Kaoru vanished from sight, melting into the air.
まったく、逃げ足だけは早いな。
Okita sounded irritated as he sheathed his sword back into its scabbard.
千鶴ちゃん、何をぼーっとしてるの？もしかして、あいつの口車に乗ろうなんて考えてるんじゃないよね。
Well...
あのさ、今のうちに言っておくけど。
Okita slowly stepped towards me. Just then, Okita's face scrunched in pain and he wrapped his arms around his body as he yelped desperately. Okita! In the blink of an eye, Okita's hair became stark white, and his irises once again became crimson. It's time for round 4. The madness of the fury struck him once more, and this time he was aiming for his heart. However, a nervous feeling shot through me. Another dizzy spell pulsed in my head. It became difficult to see clearly. My heartbeat had one ferocious pound, and then... Suddenly, I craved blood. I craved Okita's blood. My cravings began to dominate my mind, as if my entire body screamed to tear Okita limb from limb. It was an I'm never gonna say this right, animalistic desire that became impossible to resist with each passing moment. The thirst came from within. It was innate, and it needed to be quenched immediately. My forehead burned unbearably all of a sudden. I instinctively reached to touch it when my fingers felt something firm. Oh no, what was this? My hair, which was tied into a bun atop of my head, became undone and fell to my shoulders. From the corner of my eye, I saw my hair flicker. It turned white. No! I shook violently from fear. As I reached to touch my forehead once more, I felt two horns begin to poke through the flesh, slowly inching themselves above the surface. No. Am I really a demon? Was this because of the water of life? White hair and horns stabbing through my forehead? My soul, my body, both were becoming corrupted by the seren's poisonous effects. The pain was abruptly punctuated by a desperate thirst. A tickling sensation began to irritate every inch of my skin, making me want to scratch uncontrollably. No! Then a hand gently grabbed a hold of my shoulders. I was too embarrassed to let Okita see me like this, and I couldn't bear to turn and face him. Don't look at me. Okita was silent. Please, don't look at me! After I let out my sheepish whimper, he responded with a calm demeanor.
しずるちゃん、血が欲しいの?
No! I can't! All I could do was shake my head, fighting helplessly to suppress my cravings. He grabbed both of my arms and forced me to face back at him. There he was. In front of me stood a demon who resembled what I was slowly transforming into. However, he had no horns on his head. But just like me, his hair turned white, and he looked ravenous for the taste of blood. I wasn't alone. The knowledge of this overwhelmed me. I wasn't alone.
僕の羅刹の血は君を今以上に羅刹に近づけてしまうかもしれない。
Okita breathed in a strained pain staccato?
それだけは少し怖いけど、でも君が望むなら僕は拒まない。
Okita, I bit my lip aggressively and I unsheathed my kodachi. And then
千鶴ちゃん、何を。
Please, take a sip. I cut along the length of my palm and I offered my bloody hand to Okita. You want blood, right? Please, drink mine.
でも君だって血が欲しいんじゃないの？
Well, it's not as if I don't. My throat suddenly became dry and scratchy from thirst, which only worsened my cravings. But I don't need it. What I truly wanted was a reprieve from this suffocating appetite. It was driving me mad. I tried to think of a joyful moment, a time when we could live life peacefully away from these impulses. Hopefully, Okita and I could carve a future where the serum's poisonous effects no longer held us hostage. I'm a demon, and even though I was forced into drinking the water of life, numbness started trickling throughout my body, perhaps trying to coax me into quenching my thirst. But even still, I don't need blood! I just wanted to live by Okita's side.
そっか、わかった。いい子だね、君は。
Okita whispered softly, and he grabbed a hold of my hand heartedly. Okita looked vigorously around each corner, touched by blood on the surface of my hand.
僕であるために君の血を飲む。狂ってしまわないように。
Okita tickled my ear with his torpid tone, utterly enthralled by the soothing taste of my blood. My body, on the other hand, was still aching, longingly with bloodlust. But even so, watching him take such a lucid pleasure from lapping up my blood, I nodded firmly. And I won't drink your blood, so that I can keep my wits about me. This was my burden to bear.
君は強い子だね。
A slight pinch shot up my arm as Okita sucked in one more generous mouthful, then let out a deep sigh.
でもきっともうじきだから。
Okita's reassuring words made me realize how much he worked to keep me from giving into the madness. He and I leaned heavily onto one another, and I did my best to endure the serum's poisonous effects. And through it all, Okita held my hand tightly. He kept me safe until the very end.